Hi, my name is Christina Garza, and I'm the founder of Accounting Pros. You can find me online at accountingpros.com or on Twitter at accountingpros. I'm here today to talk about HR 1319, which is also known as the American Rescue Plan Act of 2021. This was signed into effect by President Joe Biden on March 11, 2021. Now, HR 1319 has a lot of information in the act. In fact, there's over 200 pages for you to read, and I do not expect anybody here to sit through me reading 242 pages of documentation, nor do I think we can cover all that information in under an hour. What I will do is cover the points that I think are most important for my small business accounting clients, specifically around banking, housing, and urban affairs, Title III, Title V, small business and entrepreneurship, and Title IX, finance. So let's go ahead and get started on Title III. Title III is incredibly important, not just for the small business community, but for the people that work inside of these businesses and their community as a whole. Many people in the small business community may have had trouble getting a PPP loan, getting the economic injury disaster loan because of when their business started or documentation that you needed. And being able to pay yourself as an owner or the people within your business may have been very challenging. Having business closures on top of not being able to get those grants and loans added additional complication to your life and the people around you. So if you are one of those small business owners or you're one of those people who have been experiencing home insecurity over the past year, Title III is really going to do a lot to help. So first of all, Title III allows for emergency rental assistance. There's $2.155 billion of rental assistance available through September 30th, 2027. And what this does is the federal government provides money to states. I think it's great that we're also providing money to the territories of the United States as well, including things like Puerto Rico, Virgin Islands, Guam, the Commonwealth of Northern Mariana Islands, and American Samoa. I think that these territories tend to get forgotten when it comes time to providing federal funding. And the uses for these types of funds are going to be things like paying your rent, including the amount that's in arrears, utility and home energy costs, plus the amount that's in arrears, and any other expenses related to housing, including eviction prevention. Title III also provides money for homeowners. So if you own versus rent, there's going to be some assistance for you as well. There's $9.6 billion in mortgage assistance available through September 30th, 2025. Again, this goes from the federal side to the states, so you'll need to get this funding through your state. And there's going to be some limits on this. So in order for you to get this type of assistance, this needs to be your primary residence. And typically primary residences are fewer than 4 units, meaning you might own a fourplex, but you reside in one of those units. Or you might have a duplex and reside in one of those units, or single family home, townhome, etc. And they have a limit on the type of loans that they'll provide assistance on. So the big one is making sure that you do not have a non-conventional or non-conforming loan. This means you cannot have a jumbo loan. Typically, you're going to be well aware of whether or not you've had a jumbo loan or a conventional loan at the time of signing your loan documents. If you have any questions, I would say look at your state and county information about the conforming loan limits at the time that you signed your loan documents. And the ways in which you can use this funding is limited to mortgage payments, utilities, including electricity, gas, home energy, water, and internet, insurance, including flood, homeowners insurance, and mortgage insurance, and homeowners association fees. Now, every state is going to have their own qualification information, so you'll need to go to your state's website to find this. But this is what's available on the Colorado's assistance site. So in order to qualify for emergency housing assistance within the state of Colorado, you must have been unable to pay your rent, your mortgage, or your mobile home lot rent because you experienced financial need due to COVID-19. Your household monthly income needs to be at or below the maximums that they sent. And I'll provide some information around Denver, but there's going to be some differences between each different county and the number of people that live inside of your residence. So make sure that you're looking at the guidelines before you put the application in. You must not have already received rental assistance that covered your rent or mortgage forbearance. And you're going to need to provide a signed application and some additional documentation in order to get this type of funding. So again, each state is going to have their own guidelines, and I'll be providing a resource in the description area below that will include the name of the state, the email address that you can email questions into, a phone number, and the website to go to. This is going to be a living document, so if the information is not available yet, note that that's going to be available moving forward. So we're going to continue to update this as new information arises. And an example of the typical income qualifications for Denver County is if you've got 4 people living in your residence, the maximum amount of income for that residence can be $8,333.33 per month, which is just under $100,000 in annual income. So again, each state and each county are going to have their own requirements, so make sure that you're looking that information up before putting your application in. And if you're finding our document to not have the information you need, just do a simple Google search. You can look at American Rescue Plan rental assistance and then the name of your state, or just emergency rental assistance and the name of your state. You'll note on the screen, I've got a big notification from the state of Colorado that says application interruption notice. So there's going to be some challenges in rolling out this program, just like there's been challenges rolling out every grant and loan and other assistance program throughout COVID-19. So be patient. The state of Colorado says that they're going to begin opening up their applications in a few weeks, and I expect every state to roll out their programs, in the time that it takes to actually get everything started. They're going to need to hire people to administer the program. They're going to need to have an online application process. So be patient, but know that the funds will be available to you shortly. Title V is all about small business and entrepreneurship. So before the act was signed, there were some significant changes made to the PPP, or the Paycheck Protection Program. So first, they had extended the eligibility to those people who were delinquent on student loan payments and have been convicted of non-fraud felonies and are non-citizen lawful residents of the United States. I think it's important to mention the significance of being delinquent on a student loan payment. So if you don't know, it's very challenging to get a government-backed loan, including a mortgage, including SBA loans, if you're delinquent on your payments or have defaulted on your payments for student loans. I won't get into how I feel about how predatory the student loan industry is, but I'm very happy to see that they've recognized that many people in the United States have either defaulted or are delinquent on their loans, and they're not holding it against them and allowing them to get the funding that they need at the time that they need. So way to go, administration. They also instructed lenders to really focus on the smallest employers, those who had fewer than 20 employees, because they were really left out of the first version of the PPP. I remember when we were trying to get our single member LLCs or sole prop clients funded for the first round of the PPP, we had lenders just straight up tell us no, that they didn't have the time to work with these types of borrowers. And for me, it was really disheartening because I don't really feel like there should be any sort of limitation on who gets the funding. If you're an employer and you pay into payroll costs, or you pay yourself or a partner, and you're distressed, then it's important that you get the funding that you deserve. So I'm really glad to see that they put that provision in previously. And after the act was signed, they have allocated $7 billion exclusively to businesses in the hardest hit sectors. So if you're in one of those areas and you're really struggling, then there should be some funding available to you. They've also extended the eligibility to more nonprofits, larger nonprofits, and including things like veteran-owned organizations, internet-only news companies. That's an interesting addition. And other 501c3 organizations with fewer than 500 employees per location. If you're a 501c6, then it's fewer than 300 employees per location. And the Economic Injury Disaster Loan has also been extended. They have added an additional $15 billion in the Economic Injury Disaster Funds. If you're one of those businesses that put in your application for the Economic Injury Disaster Loan and you were approved, but you never received the funding or you never received the grant, then you're going to be put at the very top of the list. I know it was pretty crazy when the EIDL program ran out of money because people just didn't know what to do at that point. So I'm glad to see that there's more funding here. And from April 9th, 2021 to April 23rd, 2021, the SBA is going to prioritize providing grants of $5,000. They're forgiven, so you don't need to worry about paying those back, to businesses with 10 or fewer employees that have lost more than 50% of their revenue. And from April 23rd, 2021 to May 7th, 2021, they're going to be prioritizing $5,000 grants to businesses that have fewer than 10 employees and have lost 30% in revenue. So the goal here is to provide the grants to those businesses that were hardest hit first, so 50% in revenue loss, originally, and then down to 30%. So as a reminder, the economic injury disaster loan terms and eligibility are going to be the same from the original program. So if you are a for-profit business, your interest rate is going to be 3.75%. If you're a nonprofit, it's 2.75%. They still have a 30-year term. There's still no prepayment fees. The grant portion is still forgivable. If you need more information on the economic injury disaster loan eligibility requirements, the SBA has a ton of information on sba.gov. And if you're one of those businesses that have been shut down, like an entertainment venue, maybe you're a theater or a club, there's now a shuttered venue operator grant program, and they've opened up the ability for people to take both the grant and the Paycheck Protection Program, and they've allocated $15 billion to this industry. So make sure that you take a look at the SBA site. They've got tons of information there. I'll also link that information in the description below. And there's also money for those restaurants who have been struggling as well, $2.86 billion for this industry to be exact. So I don't know about you, but I have been buying the heck out of all the food at my local favorite restaurants and definitely seeing the impact there on my waistline. So yes, I will continue to support those local restaurants by ordering from them online or going to pick up in person, but I'm glad to see that $2.86 billion has been allocated to that industry. And another important and really cool thing that they're going to be doing is the Community Navigator pilot program. So this is going to help people actually find resources, specifically those who are economically disadvantaged typically. So women, veterans, socially and economically disadvantaged individuals. They're going to be putting together a program for promotion, outreach, and they're going to have a call center. And the call center is going to be available in 10 languages. So for those of you who have been really scratching your head and wondering how you even find programs, this pilot program will help to pair grant opportunities, loan opportunities, and even help people apply for these different programs that normally just didn't even know where to find them. So yay, government, for putting this together, because it is really hard to wade through lots of information, especially at your time of need. Next is Title IX Finance. So there have been some significant changes in the unemployment insurance benefits that you might receive due to the pandemic. First of all, the Pandemic Unemployment Assistance Program, or PUA, is actually going to be extended. It's now 79 weeks versus 50. And Pandemic Emergency Unemployment Compensation, the PEUC, that's actually what you would receive if you have exhausted PUA. Originally, this is available for 24 weeks, and now it is available for 53. The Federal Pandemic Unemployment Compensation Program, or FPUC, originally had $600 for additional benefits, but that expires on March 14th, 2021, and this is now $300, and this will be available through September 6th, 2021. And for those of you who are wondering if you're going to have to pay income tax on this, if your household earns less than $150,000 per year, then the first $10,200 of unemployment insurance will not be taxable. Next is stimulus payments. So you may be wondering when you're going to get that money. So the stimulus payments are going to operate very similarly to what happened last year. You may receive a check if you have received refunds via check previously. It may be an electronic funds transfer or an ACH. So whatever format you received your stimulus payment in before, it should follow that format. And then they have actually reduced the adjusted gross income maximum in order to get the full benefit. So they've actually narrowed the scope of this program. So if you are a taxpayer that files as a single tax filer, then you'll receive a $1,400 stimulus payment if your adjusted gross income is under $75,000 per year. And you'll continue to receive the benefit, but it'll just be a reduced amount up until the point of $80,000 in adjusted gross income per year, at which point anybody who's earned above and beyond that will not receive a stimulus payment. If you file as head of household and you have an AGI of under $112,500, then you'll receive $1,400 per person. And the benefit continues up until an AGI of $120,000. So the amount will go down with a complete cutoff at $120,000. If you are married filing jointly Each spouse will receive $1,400 if you have not exceeded $150,000 in adjusted gross income, and the benefit drops off after you have gone to $160,000 in adjusted gross income. And as long as you have not exceeded those maximums, each dependent, whether they're an adult or child dependent, you'll receive $1,400 for. So make sure that you are aware of what your adjusted gross income is. In order to find that, you'll look at your 2019 1040, line 8B, or your 2020 1040, line 11. And really, an AGI, or adjusted gross income, is your total income minus your deductions or write-offs. And you might be wondering what year the IRS is going to be using in order to calculate your adjusted gross income and then figure out what your stimulus payment is. So if you have filed a 2019 tax return, they'd be using your 2019 return. If you filed your 2020, they'll use your 2020 return. So it's the most recent year on record with the IRS. And let's pretend that you have qualified for the stimulus payment based on your 29 income. And then once you start to calculate your 2020 taxes, you realize that you no longer qualify. Well, if you've received the stimulus payment, you do not have to return the money. So I would say if you are on the cusp of qualification, just be mindful of whether or not you want to receive that full amount on your stimulus or any stimulus at all. I'll leave that up to you. And if you have the opposite happen, meaning you did not qualify last year for a stimulus payment, but because of your income from last year, you now qualify, but you have not filed your tax return, you can very quickly try to file your 2020 tax return and scramble to get that done. But I would be mindful that when people go quickly filing returns or really doing anything, you really put yourself up for the potential for making mistakes. So I would say file within a reasonable amount of time. If you do not receive the benefit or you received less of the benefit, just file your 20 return and you will get the rest of the money hopefully by September of this year. That's really their goal. They've had a provision that allows people to get that refund through the end of this year or through the end of the third quarter of this year. And if you've still not received anything at all, you can take a tax credit on your 2021 tax return. But that being said, you won't be able to actually see the benefit until 2022 because we actually file for the prior year and the following year. And if you're very anxious to find out when that money is coming to you, you can go to irs.gov/coronavirus/get-my-payment and plug in some identifying information to see where your refund is or where your stimulus payment is. And just know that the IRS began sending out these refunds starting last weekend. So today is Monday, March 15th. So I'm talking about the 14th and the 13th that money started to get sent out. Those are going to continue to go out over the next few weeks. And again, go to irs.gov/coronavirus/get-my-payment and you'll be able to get a more exact date on when your refund will arrive. Next on the agenda is the Employee Retention Credit. And this credit is going to be very helpful for those employers who have been really struggling to keep their employees on staff while being able to afford to pay payroll taxes. The Employee Retention Credit, or ERC, is a refundable payroll tax credit that goes against your Social Security and Medicare taxes. And as an employer, you can receive a credit up to 70% of each employee's qualified wages, up to $10,000 per employee per quarter. You can even include healthcare benefits, even if you did not pay any other wages. And your business would qualify for the ERC if your business was shut down by the government, either fully or partially, or if your gross receipts fell below 80% in a similar quarter in 2019. So for example, Q1 of 2019 versus Q1 of 2020. And I put a little asterisk there because not everybody had to be shut down due to a government shutdown. A lot of restaurants and gyms and bars and salons and spas, people who were very in person needed to be either shut down or have a limitation on the amount of people that could come into their business. But there are still many businesses that experienced a downturn in their overall revenue of more than 20%, even if they did not have that government shutdown. So I would say that more people are going to qualify under point 2 versus point 1. So keep that in mind. And another notable item is that this new law is retroactive to March 27, 2020, and it's going to allow businesses who have taken the Paycheck Protection Program funding to also take this credit. The caveat here is that you're not able to double dip. So you can't use the same qualified wages that you use for your Paycheck Protection Program loan. So it'll need to be something that's going to be after the time that you have been covered for that. So I would highly recommend that you work with an accountant to help calculate this and figure out what the qualified wages are, and also to be able to get the funding either proactively, meaning before, like getting an advance payment before you actually need to pay, or subtracting it from the amount that's owed on your Form 941. So I wouldn't recommend that you try doing this on your own. The calculation itself is pretty complicated and also pretty annoying. And I wouldn't want you to underpay your 941 taxes and then get a penalty later. So just be mindful that this is something that you should probably have a professional help you with. And my final update is around paid sick and family leave credits. So during the beginning of the pandemic, employers were required to pay their employees paid sick leave up to 80 hours or paid family leave up to 10 weeks for specified reasons related to COVID. You're no longer required to do that, but if you do, you'll be eligible for paid sick and family leave credits. The paid sick and family leave credits are now extended to September 30th, 2021, and they've increased the credit from $10,000 to $12,000. There's no longer a 10-day waiting period before wages can be paid, and this also expands the reason why somebody may need to take sick and family leave. This includes things like getting tested and waiting for the results, and also getting the vaccine. And for those employees who have exhausted their time off, you're actually allowed to reset their clock and take additional credits for people who you may have taken a credit for previously. So that's it. Those are all my updates. I know that the Act is much longer and much more involved than all the things that I've explained to you today. If you have the time to read the entire Act, please do. It's 242 pages long. But I think this information is the most interesting and helpful for small business owners in their community. If you have any questions, please reach out to me. Thanks. Bye.